Welcome back at From School to School podcast. Today with a special guest called Gini, a cultural informed and activist teacher. Hello, I'm Manu Coelho and I'm very glad to find you here. Hello, Karin. Thank you so much for being here at From School to School podcast. And I hope and I know that we're going to have a good time talking about cultural information and movement that we can be as teachers. Would you please share a little bit about your background in education?
Well, hello everybody. My name is Karen Gini. I am a teacher here in Utah at the Dual Language Immersion Program. I am so thankful and grateful to be a part of this podcast. Thank you so much, Manu, for thinking of me and for inviting me to be here. I'm really happy. So, I've been teaching here in this program for the past 3 years. So, I teach Portuguese to third graders. However, I've been a teacher for over 14 years. I have my degree in Letras by a public university in Brazil, in Maringá, Universidade Estadual de Maringá. I also have an endorsement in world languages by another public university in Brazil. And then I have a master's degree in language studies by the same public university. Um, I love being a teacher. I have taught in different scenarios. So, just so you guys know, I started teaching while I was at college, in college. Sorry, and I used to be a language teacher at a language school. But then I moved to an elementary school and I started teaching kindergarten through fifth grade. And after that, I moved to a public school in my city in Brazil where I taught for 2 years. And then I was back to the private sector and I taught for, I don't know, 8 more years, 11 more years for middle schoolers and high schoolers. So I've taught for all of those big name schools that we have in Brazil, and also for the public educational system. And I love both, honestly. Here in Utah, I'm a teacher of the public elementary schools, and I love it.
Isn't it great to know what a teacher looks like and the experiences each one goes through in order to become a teacher? Well, knowing that you've got the talent, my question is, what is a teacher?
This is a tough question to answer. Really coming up with a definition for what a teacher is, it's harder than I thought, actually. What I can say is that being a teacher for me is being available to pass on your knowledge to whoever is around you. You're not selecting um, those that you are teaching it to, although sometimes it can be pre-selected to, but you are really sharing what you know, what you own. There is this quote, and I'm not sure if it's really a quote or, if it's just an idea, but that being a teacher, just as being a parent, is when you have kind of like a candle and then your flames are up, but you're burning yourself, so you can illuminate the path of others. And I don't say burning yourself meaning like, oh, teachers are so burned out and everything. No, that's not the point that I want to make here. I think what I'm trying to say is that being a teacher is really lighting up people's paths, people's lives. And you do it through different ways. You do it through teaching music, you do it through teaching your child how to eat with silverware. You do it as teachers in the public systems, teaching all the core subjects. however way you're teaching it, you're illuminating their paths.
Right. Availability to share knowledge to all, no matter who, and keeping the path enlightened. Hey, way to go. Hey, how did you become a teacher? Would you share that experience with us?
Well, I became a teacher really because when I was in school, I remember studying biology and chemistry in high school, and I was just like, no way that I want to deal with this for the rest of my life. In fact, I wanted to become a journalist. I've always liked communicating with people, and I thought I had a knack for it. Um, but then journalism was a course that was very limited to my mind. And then while I was doing some research on my senior year, I came up with a course that would help me study languages and become able to teach languages. And I loved the languages. Um, I I don't know. I just said, well, let's give it a try. And then, as soon as I started my degree in languages or letras, as we say in Portuguese, I fell in love with it. And then, of course, I had taught at church for Sunday school. And then my mom had taught like kindergarten when she was younger. And my dad had also an experience of being a teacher. So I kind of felt that that was within me. And then I found my own path of becoming a teacher. I was 17 when I started my degree, and I never looked back. I don't have any regrets. That's what I felt that I was called to do.
So, from journalist to language learner and then a teacher. I love when you say that you felt like, oh, I have no regrets. This is what I was born to do, which is so amazing to know that when teachers choose to teach, they develop this sense of like, this is what I was born to do. Ready for the next question? What is the theory behind your philosophy of education?
So I think the theory behind my philosophy of education, and really the theory that guides me when I am on my day to day life with the kids, teaching them, is really a quote by Sir Oliver Holmes, who was a jurist, an American jurist. And he says, and he goes something like this, I'm not going to quote it word by word, but he says that a mind that has once been stretched can never regain, can never go back to its original dimensions. And I remember that I first saw this quote when I was studying English back in high school. And my English teacher had this quote on his wall. And I just looked at it and it just made so much sense to me, because honestly, that's what we do every day. You're stretching those kids' minds. You're giving them tools to figure out new ways to exist, to figure out new ways to see the world. And once they do that, they can never go back to who they used to be. And that is amazing because it is a constant change. And the only certainty we have in life is that everything changes. So I don't know. That's how I see education.
Kari, I love your enthusiasm for education. I understand that stretching your world vision is what education looks like to you, and the neuroplasticity of our mind, our brain, and all that involves. How is this being addressed in your classroom through culture? All the elasticity of our kids' brain.
Well, as a dual language teacher here in the US, we kind of have to play by the book, and we have to follow certain standards. So, one of the standards that we follow, and I think really addresses the question of how culture is being addressed in my classroom, is that we follow the ABCs for teaching the students. So the A stands for academic achievement, the B stands for bilingualism and biliteracy, and the C, which is my favorite, and I think it resonates with this podcast idea, is cultural competence. So our main one of our main goals is to help our students become cultural competent. And how do we do that? We give them tools, we empower them to learn things and cherish other cultures. We do that by connecting them with the culture of other people. So, for example, they go on Zoom meetings, they are talking to native speakers, they share their likes and dislikes about that culture. um, they see that they are capable of understanding the other's culture, and they also we as teachers also build confidence on the students by giving them language to work with that. I think that if we say that culture in the class is being addressed just by celebrating important dates or whatever is that we are used to doing, it's not the right way. So I'll give you just a simple example. um, Here, people will call their teachers by their last names. This is a part of the American culture. However, in Brazil, that's not a part of our culture, not in the majority of schools. So coming here and having the kids call me Professora Gini is weird up to today. So I know we have to keep this professional boundaries, and I encourage them to do that. But I tell them, hey guys, in my country, that's not how we call teachers. We would just say profi, and we know our teachers' first names. Um, and this is something that I try and encourage them. And it's a very short snippet of how culture is addressed and celebrated in my class. But it's a way that I try and I bring the kids to see that they are capable so they can build the confidence and they are connected to the culture.
Cherishing other cultures. What a beautiful way to introduce and keep culture, knowledge into your classroom. I also like the ABC, standing for academic achievement, bilingualism, and biliteracy, and cultural competency. That is such good reminders for us as teachers. And our final question, and not the least important, but what is the goal of education for you?
Well, thinking about the goal of education, I really love a book that the leadership team at my school has been reading that is named Culturize. It's by Jimmy Casas, and he talks about how we can culturize every student every day, whatever it takes. And then for me, the definition that he gives for culturize, and that is the goal of education for me. He says it is to cultivate a community of learners by behaving in a kind, caring, honest, and compassionate manner in order to challenge and inspire each member of the school community to become more than they ever thought possible. And if we really see education as something as like a common practice, something that we are all doing together, I love how he puts here. It's not what you are expecting someone else to do for you. No, it's how you are behaving, you as a teacher, and how you're teaching your peers, how you're teaching your students to behave and to look at life. So um, he talks about how if we are looking at things through a kind, caring, honest, and compassionate manner, we can inspire everyone to be the best that they ever thought they could be. So that is amazing because if everyone is inspired, can you imagine what the world will be? I don't know. I imagine all the people, just like John Lennon, um, living life in peace. And I really think that the goal of education is to change the world, and we change the world by changing ourselves. So Thank you, Manu, for having me here. It was amazing. I love it, you guys. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
What a profound way to end our interview, understanding that how you behave to inspire others is how they can be their best version, the best they can ever be, and that we change the world by changing ourselves. Keep that in mind, listeners of From School to School podcast, because the goal of this channel is to help our kids today be their best versions in the future and possibly become future educators in any area they can work and help our community, our world to be a better place. Thank you, Professora Gini, for sharing your culture with us at From School to School podcast. And you listening to us, remember, you are an educator, and I believe in you. See you next time. Oh, one more thing. It's the legal language. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals.